Alright, so if you haven't taken a break already, take a little break before you start watching part two. Just get a break from your eyes from looking at the screen. So go ahead and do that. And when you're ready, go ahead and hit play. Okay, so today we're going to look more at midpoints with segments. So the midpoint of a segment is the point on the segment that divides it into two congruent segments. And congruent is basically another term we use for equal. Alright, so congruent just means equal. We use it in geometry a lot to refer to the measurements of sides and angles. So when you hear congruent, you can just think equal. So midpoint's what it sounds like. It's the point in the middle. And because it's in the middle, the two pieces that it makes are equal to each other, or congruent. Now this is the symbol for congruent right here. It's like an equals with a little squiggle over top of it. So this statement is saying segment AB is congruent to segment BC. So looking at this picture right here, number 6, it says given M is the midpoint of segment RS, complete each statement. It says if RS equals 10, then SM equals blank. So let's draw a picture of that and see if that can help us. So M is the midpoint of RS. So let's draw segment RS. And we know M is in the very middle. Okay, it's in the very middle. It says if RS equals 10, then what's SM? So RS is 10. So what is SM, the distance from S to M? Well, if M is in the very middle, then the distance from S to M is half of 10. We know half of 10 is 5. Of course, the other side is 5 because M is in the middle, so those two distances have to be the same. 5 plus 5 would be 10. All right, so that's all you have to do on that one. So go ahead and pause the video and try part B by yourself. Draw a picture to help you out, and then when you're ready, we'll go over it. Okay, so the same segment, but this time they tell us that RM is 12. So if RM is 12, what's MS? Well, again, if M is the midpoint, then the two pieces have to be the same. They got to be equal or congruent. So that means MS is also 12. So then how long is RS? Distance from R to S is just 12 plus 12 more, right? Using segment addition postulate, we just add the two parts, part plus part equals the whole. 12 plus 12 is 24. All right, so try these check your understanding 7 through 10. Try to do all 4 of them, and then we'll go over the answers and see how you did. So just pause the video, give them a try. Here, along with the ruler, point D is at the mark for 4.5. And it says that E is 3.4 centimeters away. So what are two marks that E could be located at? Well, E could either be 3.4 in this direction. So if you add 3.4 to 4.5, you would get the point 7.9. Or it could be 3.4 less than 4.5, which would be 1.1. So it could be either one of those places. This is D, that could be E, or that could be E. So that's what they're asking. What are the two values of point E that could be possible? All right, number 8, point N is the midpoint of FG. Notice how I keep drawing pictures, right? Pictures really help out a lot if you'll get in the habit of drawing. So N is the midpoint of FG. So N is in the middle of FG. And it tells us that Fn is 2x. So if Fn is 2x, what's the expression to represent Fg? Okay, well, remember, if N is the midpoint, that means both segments are the same. So if Fn is 2x, that means Ng has to be 2x also, right? So those two have to be the same because N is the midpoint. So what's an expression for Fg? Well, it's part 2x plus the other part 2x. Part plus part equals the whole, right? 2x plus 2x is 4x. So that's the expression we could use for Fg. All right. Does array have a midpoint? No, array does not have a midpoint because it goes on forever and ever and ever. So there's no way to divide it into 2 equal parts. There's no point you can pick on it that would cut it into 2 equal parts. All right, give an example that illustrates the segment addition postulate. There's a lot of things you could say. You can say A is between C and D, right? So CA plus AD equals CD. Right, so that's an example of the segment addition postulate. And if you drew a picture of it, all right, so you got A between C and D. So that would be good enough to explain the segment addition postulate and have a picture drawn. Okay, so hopefully you understood those and don't have any questions. If you do, just let me know, send me a message on Remind, and I can help you out. All right, so let's look at 11. It says you can also use a number line to find the distance between 2 points. Okay, so if we want to find the distance between 2 points using a number line, how are we going to do that? All right, so here's what we can do. Take the 2 points and average them, right? Find the average. So if you forgot how to find an average, you take the numbers, you add them all up, and divide by how many there are. So we've got 2 numbers. We've got -3 and 4. So we're going to average those. Add them up. 4 plus -3 equals 1. And then divide it by 2, right? Because there's 2 numbers. So we add them all up, divide by how many there are. That gives us 1/2. So 1/2, the point 1/2 is the point in the very middle. So right here is 1/2. That would be the midpoint of that segment. That's what it tells us right here. The midpoint of a segment is halfway between its endpoints. So if you know the coordinates of the endpoints, just average them to find the coordinate of the midpoint. So right here, we can add 8 and 40 to get 48. And 48 divided by 2 is 24. So that's the midpoint right here, M, of that segment. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and try this, check your understanding, A, B, C, and D, and then we will go over them. Hopefully you'll do well. Part A, that's what is KL. Remember, there's no bar over KL, so that's asking the distance between K and L. So all we've got to do is subtract 15 minus -9. And when we subtract a negative, it really makes it plus a positive, so that gives us 24. So the length of KL is 24. What's the coordinate of the midpoint? We just talked about how to find that. To find the midpoint, you're going to average the 2 points. So now we're going to take -9 and add 15 and then divide it by 2. -9 plus 15 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So the midpoint would be right at 3. That's where the midpoint would go. All right, now C is a little bit tougher, a little bit more challenging. So it says point C lies between points K and L. So point C is somewhere in between those points, and the distance between K and C is 1/3 of KL. So however long KL is, the distance from K to C is only 1/3 as long. So let's think then, how far is it from K to L? Remember, it was 24, right? So what's 1/3 of 24? Because we want to go 1/3 of the way. So to do 1/3 of 24, you just multiply 24 by 1/3. And when you multiply that, the easiest way is to multiply 24 by the top number. 24 times 1 is 24, divided by 3 is 8. So that means, that's not our answer. That just means that that's how far away C and K are, right? So from K, if we go 8 units, right, from -9, and add on 8 more, that gives us an answer of -1. Okay, so that's a little bit tougher, but you just got to figure out how far apart are they, and then just add that distance onto K, and that'll give you where C is at. So we know that C is somewhere right around in here at -1. All right. Now D says point N lies between C and L. So you've got point C right here at -1, and you've got point L at 15. And it says that point N is between those. The distance between C and N is 3/4 of CL. So N is somewhere in here, and the distance between C and N is 3/4 of C and L. So the question first is, how far apart are C and L? Well, C is at -1 and L is at 15. Right? Remember, we subtract them. 15 minus -1, add a positive. So there's 16 distance between those, right? So we're 16 apart to go from C to L. But we want to be 3/4 of CL. So take 3/4 of 16. So 16 times 3/4. All right, so you can do 16 times 3. That would give you 48/4, which divides to 12. So that's the distance between C and N. C and N is 12 away. So if C is at -1, we just have to add on 12. So -1 plus 12 equals 11. So that's the point that you would be at to have point N. So point N would be right there at 11. Okay, so those last two are a little bit challenging. That's all right. Hopefully you're able to get them, and we can go ahead and move on. If you have questions, let me know. So if Q is the midpoint of PR, PQ equals 4x minus 5, and QR equals 11 plus 2x, determine the length of PQ. All right, so I'm going to do this over here where we've got some space to write. So let's draw a picture, right? So Q is the midpoint of PR. So let's draw PR first. And Q is in the very middle. It's the midpoint. Okay, remember, if it's a midpoint, it means it cuts the full segment PR into two congruent pieces, right? So let's label now the segments we're given. It says PQ is 4x minus 5, and QR is 11 plus 2x. Okay, so determine the length of PQ. So how can we determine the length of PQ? Well, we need to know a value of x, right? We need to solve for x. So remember now, if Q is in the middle, right, then that means that PQ and QR are the same length. Okay, those little tick marks indicate that they're the same length. So if they're the same length, another term for being the same is being equal. So if Q's in the middle, that means 4x minus 5 has to equal 11 plus 2x. Just like if we had a segment and I told you that this point was in the middle and the whole distance was 10 all the way across. The whole distance is 10. Well, you could tell me the two pieces, they're both 5, right? Notice they've both got to be equal to each other. Same thing right here. 4x minus 5 has to be equal to 11 plus 2x if Q is a midpoint. All right, so now we can solve to find x. So subtract 2x from both sides using the subtraction property of equality. And then combine the 5 with the 11 by adding 5 to both sides using the addition property. 11 plus 5 is 16. And then we just divide by 2. So we get x equals 8. Okay, so x is 8, but that's not our answer, right? Because we wanted to find the length of PQ. So we've got to take x and plug it back in for the expression. So 4 times 8 minus 5. 4 times 8 is 32. Minus 5 is 27. So now we know the length of PQ is 27, right? But remember, if Q is the midpoint, the two pieces have to be the same. So that means the other piece has to be 27. Now if you plug 8 back into the expression 11 plus 2x, you're going to get 27, but it's much quicker to just remember that Q is the midpoint, so they've got to be the same. So the length of PR, we just found PQ. That one's found PQ, it was 27. But if we wanted to find PR, we could add 27 and 27 to get 54 for the length of PR. So our answer for that would be 27. Well, go ahead and try part A and see if you can find the measure of WZ. All right, pause the video, try it, and we'll go over it. So this one had a little bit of a trick to it because they give you the expression for one of the parts, and they give you a second expression, but the second one, 3x minus 4, is an expression for the whole segment, right? So you're like, okay, well, what do I do, right? Because I can't set these equal. Obviously, x plus 3 is a lot shorter than 3x minus 4, right? So they're not equal. So how do I set up an equation? Well, remember, y is the midpoint. So if y is in the very middle, that means that these two pieces are congruent or equal, right? So if one of them is x plus 3, we can just call the other one x plus 3. Now, it's just like a segment addition problem. Part plus part equals the whole. One part is x plus 3 plus the other part, x plus 3, equals the whole 3x minus 4. We combine like terms, x and x is 2x, and 3 plus 3 is 6. And now we can continue solving. 3x minus 2x leaves us with x minus 4, and then we just add 4. So x equals 10. All right, and we wanted to find the length of WZ. Well, WZ was the expression for the whole thing, so we need to plug back into the expression 3x minus 4. So 3 times 10 minus 4 is 30 minus 4, which is 26. So the answer to that one is 26. All right, so that's going to be the end of this video. Go ahead and take a little bit of a break, and then go ahead and watch the third video after you give your eyes a rest.